Bene, allora possiamo iniziare, abbiamo almeno provvisoriamente risolto. Abbiamo qui l'onore di avere il sindaco e la dottoressa Querci dell'autorità portuale che sostituisce il presidente che purtroppo ha avuto un problema a causa degli eventi meteorologici di ieri notte, e quindi darei la parola prima alla dottoressa Querci, che ci dà il benvenuto in questa sala bellissima che ci hanno offerto e delle quali naturalmente vi ringraziamo. Io sono Anna Gerometta, Cittadini per l'Aria, e diamo il benvenuto a tutti.
Buongiorno a tutti, vi ringrazio gli ospiti italiani e ringrazio moltissimo anche gli ospiti che vengano dall'estero. Siamo onorati di avervi qui a Livorno. Come diceva il Presidente, oggi è impossibilitato a venire, ma ci teneva, insomma, oggi poi io interverrò nel pomeriggio e parleremo proprio in media res di quello che il porto sta facendo, ma insomma diciamo che siamo molto attivi, poi ne parleremo e approfondiremo. Ci rendiamo conto che il tema centrale è quello di riuscire a coniugare, ma questa sensibilità c'è da parte di tutte le organizzazioni, sia italiane sia a livello europeo, con cui abbiamo l'onore di lavorare in questi anni, sulla necessità di conciliare il tema dello sviluppo e il tema anche della salute pubblica, come è giusto che sia. Non è facile, ci si può riuscire e secondo me ci possiamo riuscire se tutti insieme riusciamo a creare anche delle forme di governance, di collaborazione in grado di portare dei buoni risultati. Gli strumenti ci sono, a livello europeo ci stiamo dando da fare. Noi siamo riusciti insomma ad avere l'onore di avere anche l'avvocata Gerometta dentro un nostro progetto molto importante che riguardava le emissioni navali nell'area seca del Mediterraneo. E è stato innovativo perché per la prima volta c'è stata la voce del territorio che si è alzata e ha stimolato, diciamo così, le istituzioni europee a prestare un'attenzione diretta a quelle che erano anche proprio le necessità territoriali, che come sapete sono estremamente diverse da Stato a Stato, ma anche in un'azione come l'Italia, così variegata, con modelli diversi anche portuali, è complicato mettere insieme il regime. Però l'autorità portuale c'è a sostegno delle istituzioni e soprattutto c'è a sostegno dei cittadini, perché la comunità livornese da sempre è una comunità integrata, insomma, dove il porto e la città hanno sempre trovato missione unica l'uno dell'altro. Vi ringrazio.
Grazie per l'ospitalità. Sì, ringrazio anch'io l'Autorità di Sistema per l'ospitalità all'interno di questa struttura, ringrazio gli organizzatori, l'appuntamento è quanto mai significativo in generale e ancora di più in una città come la città di Livorno, che è indubbiamente stata da questo punto di vista anche luogo di ampie, approfondite e alcune volte anche animate discussioni e valutazioni sul quadro complessivo. Parto da un elemento: ognuno di noi, almeno io personalmente da cittadino e quindi quando non ero ancora sindaco ma ero giornalista, determinate sensibilità e determinate preoccupazioni ce l'avevo chiare, e devo dire che è la stessa cosa anche per quanto riguarda gli assessori. Qui ci sono presenti due assessore, Giovanna Cepparello e Silvia Viviani, che prima di ricoprire un incarico, determinate sensibilità e preoccupazioni l'avevano sempre dimostrate. Non è che quando poi uno diventa amministratore, sindaco e assessore questo qui viene cancellato e viene messo da parte, si rimane le stesse persone con le stesse idee e con gli stessi obiettivi, con una aggiunta in più, quella di coniugare queste idee, queste esigenze, queste preoccupazioni sul fronte ambientale e della qualità dell'aria con un'azione di governo, e questo spesso è complicato, ma spesso regala anche dei risultati significativi. Dico questo perché nel mio intervento, che spero di poter concentrare in pochissimi minuti, io voglio raccontare di come la città di Livorno e la sua amministrazione negli ultimi 5 anni abbia lavorato con il tema della qualità dell'aria al centro delle proprie azioni e al centro della propria consapevolezza che dovevamo fare di più in questa città e dovevamo fare meglio. Da questo ne è scaturito poi anche un piano per la qualità dell'aria, che è una novità a cui il Comune non era assolutamente tenuto a lavorare, perché le centraline che erano state piazzate, le centraline livornesi di monitoraggio che sono in piazza Cappiello, in via La Pira e in via Le Carducci, non erano stati oggetto di sforamenti dal 2014, però noi abbiamo ritenuto ugualmente che la strategia di tutela dell'aria dovesse passare da un piano complessivo della qualità dell'aria. C'è poi il tema forte, qui siamo in porto e ce ne rendiamo assolutamente conto, delle emissioni navali. Su questo fronte noi abbiamo fondamentalmente fatto 3 operazioni. La prima, quella del Livorno Blue Agreement, è un percorso che ci ha visto protagonisti insieme a tante altre realtà con un protocollo volontario, e proprio perché era un protocollo volontario proposto agli armatori aveva anche ed ha anche delle criticità e delle debolezze. Essendo volontario, non tutti gli armatori hanno deciso di aderire, e questo è un quadro che noi ci troviamo a Livorno, ma che naturalmente deve essere governato a livello nazionale se poi vogliamo avere dei risultati anche sul singolo territorio. E questo è un invito che io faccio al governo attuale, ma anche a quello precedente, senza valutazione di colori, di prendere in seria considerazione un percorso complessivo che riguarda tutto il Paese, anche perché se no i singoli territori e le singole città insomma, hanno le armi un po' spuntate per coinvolgere gli armatori su un percorso che deve guardare naturalmente anche alla trasformazione delle flotte a disposizione degli armatori e all'adeguamento dei porti per quello che è il tema del cold ironing. Il secondo punto è quello che, ritenendo appunto il protocollo non sufficiente, questa amministrazione ha investito 30.000 euro direttamente per approntare delle centraline mobili che potessero fare dei rilevamenti. È naturale che questa soluzione era un messaggio chiaro per accendere i riflettori sul problema e non era la questione risolutiva, questo ne siamo ampiamente convinti tutti, però noi lo abbiamo fatto, e la questione apre tra l'altro poi un tema sul monitoraggio regionale che ad oggi non include l'area portuale di Livorno, e quindi anche in questo caso c'è un messaggio che noi abbiamo mandato chiaro alla Regione Toscana di considerare l'ambito portuale come un ambito da tenere in monitoraggio costante. Il terzo elemento, che è forse quello più importante, ha visto la partita alla quale ci siamo dedicati, che è quella che ci ha portato ad ottenere che la Capitaneria di Porto, sempre stata molto collaborativa, devo dire, su questo fronte, emanasse un'ordinanza unica nel suo genere, tant'è vero che questa ordinanza poi ci è stata richiesta anche da altri porti, che potesse disciplinare il tenore di zolfo delle navi che si avvicinavano al nostro porto. Anche questo è un elemento di assoluta novità. Tra l'altro questo ha consentito alla Capitaneria di Porto di fare anche degli interventi sanzionatori in almeno 5-6 occasioni agli armatori, con gli strumenti normativi a disposizione adesso. Magari qualcuno dirà è come togliere un pelo a un orso, la sanzione che viene fatta, però anche in quel caso gli elementi per quanto è consentito dal quadro normativo noi li abbiamo spinti con forza. Noi sappiamo benissimo che dalle emissioni di zolfo, a controllare le emissioni di zolfo, perché c'è tutta la partita che riguarda invece le emissioni di azoto, ad esempio, che devono essere assolutamente prese in considerazione. Su questo tema noi come amministratori ci troviamo nella condizione di dover fare un pressing forte e costante, cercando alleanze con tutto il mondo ambientalista, costruendo insieme una massa critica per ottenere dei risultati complessivi e che poi tengono dentro anche la realtà livornese. Mi fa piacere vedere che l'autorità di sistema ha la piena disponibilità a lavorare su questo fronte e mi intriga, devo dire, questa proposta per un nuovo modello operativo di governance a multilivello per il monitoraggio ambientale. Può essere un altro punto di partenza, un altro riflettore atteso per fare poi di Livorno ancora di più e meglio un luogo dove si discute, magari si litiga alcune volte, e però si va avanti. Questa secondo me è la chiave di lettura fondamentale. Chiudo con un elemento. Noi siamo preoccupati in generale della qualità dell'aria, del nostro ecosistema, del nostro ambiente, perché vogliamo vivere in luoghi che siano da questo punto di vista ideali. Però dobbiamo anche partire da un concetto che per far questo, per esprimere la nostra preoccupazione, non dobbiamo assolutamente buttare a mare i dati e gli elementi anche positivi che ci arrivano. Io faccio riferimento alla graduatoria, all'esame, all'indagine che è stata fatta a livello europeo, che poi ci dice che la qualità dell'aria di Livorno, Sassari, Savona e pochi altri è una qualità ritenuta buona, incoraggiante. Ecco, apprezzare questo aspetto, è un'indagine europea, apprezzare questo aspetto non vuol dire abbassare la guardia e dire va tutto bene e quindi siamo felici e non facciamo più niente. Non è questo, anzi, però francamente nella gestione poi anche dell'umore su questi fronti, se arrivano buone notizie, non abbiamo il diritto, noi, e non ha il diritto il cittadino, di renderle, magari di farle perdere la forza dicendo che non sono vere o sono frutto di rilevamenti falsi o non fatti nella giusta maniera. Prendiamoci ogni tanto anche qualche buona notizia e continuiamo il nostro lavoro attento, puntuale, per migliorare la situazione. Grazie.
Grazie mille signor Sindaco. Io, come le ho detto, naturalmente siamo tutti felici quando vediamo i dati migliorare della qualità dell'aria. Vero è che dispiace che non ci sia forse il punto di monitoraggio di Livorno, di traffico, andrebbe ripensato perché sia effettivamente più efficace elaborazione delle politiche cittadine. Perché
sono completamente d'accordo, tant'è vero che la centralina di Viale Carducci, che fino a una decina d'anni fa dava dei valori preoccupantissimi, tant'è vero che dicevano Viale Carducci è la strada più inquinata di Livorno, pensare che c'è l'ospedale lì vicino, ci sarà anche l'ospedale nuovo, ora che ha dato dei numeri buoni, va cambiata di posizione. Ok, per me va benissimo, spostiamola, però almeno che c'è stato un miglioramento in quella strada, prendiamocelo come elemento.
Certo. Bene, grazie davvero di essere qui e inviterei allora adesso il signor Samut, che è il direttore della REMPEC, che è l'ente che si occupa a livello europeo della della risposta emergenziale, diciamo, alle questioni di inquinamento nel Mediterraneo. Siamo molto onorati, lui anche parla italiano ma penso che parlerà in inglese e quindi avete tutte le cuffie, gli diamo il benvenuto, davvero lo ringraziamo anche perché il loro ruolo è assolutamente fondamentale nel lavoro che stiamo facendo da tanti anni insieme a tutto il gruppo delle associazioni che contribuiscono e che hanno organizzato con noi questo convegno, e cioè quello di ottenere che nel Mediterraneo le navi inquinino meno. Vi lascio la parola.
Grazie, buongiorno a tutti, sono lieto di essere qua, grazie per l'invitazione, ma adesso parlerò in inglese. Allora, first of all, I would like to thank the organizers of this important conference on the state of air quality in the Mediterranean region and the actions being taken at regional level to reduce air pollution. A special thanks goes also to the Mayor of Livorno and the Livorno Port authorities for hosting this event. So first, if you allow me to introduce REMPEC. What is REMPEC? REMPEC was established. Okay, no. Sorry for that. I was checking whether the slides were back. So REMPEC was established in 1976 in Malta within the framework of the Mediterranean Action Plan of the Barcelona Convention, the first regional seas program set up by the United Nations Environment Program. Since its establishment, REMPEC has been administered by the International Maritime Organization, which regulates the shipping sector to ensure the safety and security of shipping and the prevention of marine and atmospheric pollution by ships. REMPEC coordinates UNEP and IMO's efforts to support Mediterranean coastal states in meeting regional and global targets. Sitting at the intersection of Europe, Asia and Africa, the Mediterranean Sea sees 24% of global shipping traffic passing through its waters annually. The Mediterranean share of global shipping traffic is expected to reach 38% by 2050. A staggering figure for a sea that represents less than 1% of the world's ocean. It hosts today over 500 million inhabitants and will reach nearly 700 million by 2050. It is one of the world's top travel destinations, including for 28 million cruise passenger ships per year, representing 17% of the global cruise industry. It is important to point that the Mediterranean is only second to the Caribbean Sea when it comes to passenger ships activity in such a small enclosed sea. Maritime transport carries over 80% of global trade and remains the backbone of trade in the region. Time has come to decouple the maritime sector's development from pollution and environmental degradation. The pressure exerted by the maritime transport sector is affecting the Mediterranean nature, which is home to 17,000 marine species, 25% of which are endemic, the highest rate in the world. But what are we doing? I mentioned the figures just to set the scene of what we are trying to protect. So, before addressing the METSOC SECA, let me say a few words on the Mediterranean strategy for the prevention of preparedness, and response to marine pollution from ships. By adopting this strategy, the contracting parties to the Barcelona Convention committed to take individual and collective effective measures to address a range of environmental challenges, including pollution, climate change, air emissions, plastic and marine litter, non-indigenous species, protected areas, and other emerging issues, such as underwater noise. This strategy is not only a response to these environmental challenges, but also a driver of green maritime transport that is a firm basis for a wider, sustainable blue economy in the Mediterranean. This is part of a broader endeavor undertaken by IMO, UNEP-MAP, and the contracting parties to the Barcelona Convention to address the triple crisis of climate change, pollution, and biodiversity loss in the Mediterranean, while accelerating the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals. This strategy has identified 7 objectives. I will not go through them, they are on the slide, and who would like to see further information can access this on our website. So there are 7 objectives aiming to turn the tide on pollution from ships and to anchor sustainable maritime practices relating to pollution from ships. To illustrate the power of the cooperation offered by the Barcelona Convention, allow me to particularly recall the historic adoption by its contracting parties of the decision for the designation of the Mediterranean as a sulfur emission control area that would see the limit of the sulfur content in fuel oil used on board ships operating within the Mediterranean to 0.1%, which will enter into effect, and this is a very important date, on 1st May 2025. The Mediterranean SECA would come with a raft of benefits. It would mean a significant reduction in shipping's negative effects on human health through lowering emissions of SOx and fine particulate matter, avoiding 1,000 premature deaths due to lung cancers, cardiovascular illnesses and strokes, as well as more than 2,000 cases of childhood asthma. It would also contribute to reduce acidification and reduce harm to crops, forests, and aquatic species that will be cherished for generations to come. As stated, the Mediterranean Sea constitutes less than 1% of the world's oceans, but is one of the busiest seas in the world, supporting 20% of seaborne trade. Hence, changing regulations for ships in the Mediterranean impacts not only the Mediterranean trade, but also ships passing through the region. The implementation of such a change has, of course, a cost. Countries and the shipping sector needed assurance on the economic impacts of the designation of the Mediterranean as a SECA. Therefore, we undertook a number of studies which clearly indicated that there is availability of alternative fuels in the Mediterranean, and also that the competitiveness of the shipping industry would remain, benefiting the citizens of the Mediterranean. The overall assessment showed that only considering the cost reduction of avoiding premature deaths exceeds the cost of implementing the Mediterranean SECA. I guess this is an important message in the current inflation context. The implementation of the SECA comes with other benefits, notably through the acceleration of the ratification of MARPOL Annex 6 that regulates air pollution from ships and other pollution, and therefore support efforts for greener shipping through the reduction of our emissions as well as greenhouse gases from ships. The MET-SECA has mobilized resources and support for countries and will drive transformation of ports, environments, for instance, through the setup of electrification of ports, which we are seeing flourishing in the Mediterranean ports, such as Livorno, Marseille, and Valletta, Malta. That said, we still have a number of contracting parties to the Barcelona Convention that have not yet ratified MARPOL Annex 6. And this remains a challenge which REMPEC is committed to continue working with other partners such as EMSA, Life4NECA, and others to provide the necessary capacity building and training leading to effective implementation and enforcement of the SECA. We will continue to organize regional workshops. We will continue to assist all the contracting parties to move forward. But what should ships do to comply to the Mediterranean SECA rules? MARPOL, as we know, rules limit the sulfur content of fuel used on board ships. The latter are therefore required to use fuel with a sufficiently low sulfur content to meet the IMO requirements. Ships can be equipped with engines that use fuels with very low or no sulfur content, such as LNG or biofuels. Some ships use other methods approved by flag states, the so-called scrubbers, which give rise to other environmental challenges, such as the discharging of their water. And indeed, REMPEC did not stop there, and we are looking into these new environmental challenges because we do not want a Mediterranean Sea where we solve or try to resolve the issue of air pollution, but create other detrimental environmental impacts on our marine ecosystem. So we together with the Italian Ministry of Environment and Energy Security, which I take this opportunity also, being in Italy, to heartfully thank, they gave a voluntary contribution where we are now looking into the possible impacts and challenges that will arise with the entry into force of the Mediterranean SECA. And there are quite a few, because alternative fuels would also bring other challenges in the case of an accident, for example. The Mediterranean Sea is well equipped to deal with oil pollution accidents, but is it well equipped to deal with accidents involving these alternative fuels, these low sulfur fuels? And these are the challenges that, thanks to the Italian Minister for Environment and Energy Security, we are looking into, and hopefully we will propose to the Mediterranean coastal states possible actions that we can take forward. Again, we didn't stop there. I take also this opportunity to refer to the work we are currently undertaking on the possible designation of the Mediterranean as a nitrogen oxide emission control area. Building on the experience of the Mediterranean SECA, the region is already looking at possible future measures to continue the reduction of air emissions from ships and have mandated REMPEC to explore the possible designation of the Mediterranean Sea as a whole as a NECA. We have already started work on this. The terms of reference for a very technical, detailed socio-economic impact assessment have been finalized by the contracting parties. The consortium to undertake the study has been appointed, and we expect the first results of this study by mid-year for onward transmission to the next meeting of the contracting parties to the Barcelona Convention in December 2025. In conclusion, I think you will agree with me that one of the important drivers of any healthy relationship is good and transparent communication. To elaborate on a common project in any partnership, defining its objectives is essential. To execute it in the most efficient way through harmonious and coordinated synergies, dialogue is required to define when the objective should be met, who is responsible for what, who needs to do, what needs to be done, what resources are required, available and can be pulled together. Striving towards the accomplishment of our common objective of improving the air quality in the Mediterranean Sea, I invite all of you to work today and in the months to come in a concerted manner. We have the means to do so if we join forces, improve planning, expertise, knowledge, human and financial resources through a dynamic and collaborative approach. So let's work together towards a clean and healthy Mediterranean marine and coastal environment for a sustainable and pollution-free maritime sector, supported by a rigorous enforcement system and strengthened multi-sectoral cooperation for the benefit of present and future generations. Let's make that happen. Thank you for your attention. Thank you.
Buongiorno a tutti quanti, grazie a nome di Rosa Antidormi, la mia collega che si occupa in particolare della DG Ambiente, delle strategie per l'ambiente marino e servizi di acqua pulita. E Rosa si è occupata negli anni passati di cose che ho sentito parlare il relatore precedente, cioè delle aree di controllo delle emissioni a livello internazionale, e cerco un po' di riprendere il discorso su quello già introdotto dal relatore precedente. Dunque, eccoci. Nel contesto europeo c'è stato in questi ultimi anni il Green Deal e come effetto anche del Green Deal e delle nuove volontà politiche di ridurre gli inquinamenti in ambito marino, ci siamo poi mossi a livello internazionale per definire queste nuove zone di controllo delle emissioni delle acque anche nell'UE con la riduzione degli SOX e degli NOx. E non solo, questo si inserisce in un contesto un po' più ampio dove il Fit for 55, cioè il pronti per il 55% di riduzione delle emissioni dei gas serra, comporta anche altri aspetti che convergono verso il risultato finale che noi vogliamo, che è quello di ridurre le emissioni in locale. E questo riguarda la transizione verso nuovi combustibili per il trasporto marittimo imposti dal nuovo regolamento europeo, per la decarbonizzazione e la transizione energetica, con riduzioni delle emissioni delle navi anche nei porti. Ne parlerò nella presentazione successiva in modo particolare. Questo è solo questa slide qui è per darvi un po' il quadro generale. Ci sono poi un'altra serie di leggi europee che concorrono ad avere un quadro più completo dal punto di vista legislativo. E sono in particolare le legislazioni che riguardano gli obblighi per le infrastrutture che devono essere messe a disposizione nei sistemi di trasporto come nei porti, e il quadro normativo europeo che riguarda il trading delle emissioni di gas serra, e il quadro normativo europeo della RED, che è la Renewable Energy Directive, quindi il greening del tipo di energia che viene utilizzato in senso ampio da tutte le sorgenti che vengono utilizzate in Europa, che ora include anche degli obiettivi specifici per il settore marittimo, e in generale il quadro dell'efficienza energetica. Le zone che sono state menzionate prima hanno avuto un successo, cioè queste zone UE di controllo delle emissioni di SOx e di NOx in Mar del Nord e Mar Baltico, più un massimale globale, hanno comportato che dal 2015, quando le concentrazioni erano 20-60% superiori, sono state sostanzialmente ridotte. C'è anche di positivo da osservare che il settore marittimo si è reso disponibile, quindi il 93% delle navi ispezionate dall'UE si è dimostrata conforme ai regolamenti di riduzione di questo tipo di emissione, e non ha causato il fatto di avere queste nuove normative ambientali il trasferimento verso altre modalità di trasporto, né un calo della competitività del settore. Quindi si è dimostrato che questa transizione verde è avvenuta senza impattare negativamente il settore. L'attuazione è uniforme nel settore marittimo, nell'industria e nel settore petrolifero, con una preparazione di investimenti e una strategia che chiaramente è interrelazionata, perché quando parliamo in particolare di emissioni del settore marittimo, uno degli aspetti fondamentali è l'utilizzo dei combustibili. E i combustibili derivano dal settore energetico che li produce e sono in competizione con altri settori. Ecco, una visione come quella che è stata presentata all'interno del Green Deal, armoniosa, con il pacchetto Fit for 55, che ha portato avanti diverse proposte legislative coerenti, ha permesso di arrivare ai risultati che abbiamo qui davanti. Voglio menzionare poi anche il ruolo dell'EMSA, lo vedete qui nell'ultimo puntino, nella seconda casellina, che l'EMSA è fondamentale per la misurazione del monitoraggio delle emissioni, per le sorveglianze a distanza del rispetto di queste norme. Allora, volevamo poi accennare a uno studio finanziato dall'Unione Europea che ha guardato ai costi e ai benefici di queste azioni. Nel 2030 le emissioni di NOx provenienti da nave sono state superiori a quelle provenienti da fonti terrestri a vantaggio delle politiche climatiche, e i benefici di questa trasformazione, cioè i benefici nel senso, i benefici in termini di benefici per l'ambiente in senso lato e per la salute dei cittadini, li sono dimostrati 7 a 12 volte superiori rispetto ai costi coinvolti. Lo sapete, ci sono delle metodologie per in qualche modo dare un valore monetario ai danni alla salute, come, non so, l'asma o il numero di morti legati ai momenti critici in cui ci sono ossidi di azoto, ossidi di zolfo presenti nell'aria, che portano poi il sistema cardiovascolare e respiratorio a una situazione critica e quindi alla morte. Quindi diciamo che tutto il vantaggio che c'è dal punto di vista della salute supera di gran lunga l'impatto in termini economico della trasformazione verde. E una piccola nota: le NECA sono meno costose delle SECA e si applicano solo alle navi nuove, ma una nuova revisione della direttiva ambientale che è stata adottata adesso, la revisione della direttiva sulla qualità dell'aria, che riguarda tutti gli ambiti, quindi riguarda riguarda il terrestre, come dire, cioè l'ambito dove le persone vivono, però ingloba tutti i settori che emettono, è anche pronta con dei limiti di emissione molto più bassi e molto più prossimi a quelli dell'OMS, e tutto questo nei prossimi anni incentiverà ulteriormente a livello locale le politiche verdi per la riduzione degli effetti sulla salute e della qualità dell'aria. Passo a un'altra slide perché dopo vado alla mia presentazione. Dunque, un'altra cosa che volevo accennare è che il settore si sta trasformando con dei progetti particolarmente innovativi, cioè il settore marittimo, le navi stanno veramente investendo in navi che utilizzano dei combustibili diversi, che utilizzano soluzioni a impatto zero, che sono come la vecchia vela, le navi tornano a diventare delle navi a vela, se non un contributo dei combustibili che non emettono inquinanti nell'aria. E questo è agevolato anche dal sistema di emission trading scheme, cioè questo sistema economico che dà un limite a tutte le emissioni di gas serra che possono essere prodotte dal sistema marittimo, ma attraverso un sistema economico di scambio e di pagamento degli eccessi fa sì che ci sia un incentivo di nuovo verso gli armatori, in questo caso, per acquistare delle navi nuove. Passo alle conclusioni. La Commissione accoglie con favore le norme sul controllo delle emissioni delle navi con una portata geografica più ampia e una rapida entrata in vigore, e questo devo aggiungere anche grazie a un contesto internazionale relativamente favorevole, soprattutto rispetto al settore automotive, al settore delle auto e al settore aviazione. Realizzare trasporti marini più ecologici per proteggere la salute pubblica e l'ambiente. Vi è un grande slancio per il controllo degli NOx. I studi esistenti in futuri in materia di analisi costi-benefici, come accennavo prima, dimostrano il vantaggio di questo, e l'IMO è anche particolarmente coinvolta nel cercare di ridurre le fonti di NOx. Perché il sistema non è isolato dal resto del mondo, stiamo sfruttando le sinergie con gli sviluppi climatici in altri ambiti, quindi l'efficienza energetica, i combustibili alternativi a basse emissioni di carbonio, il consumo di carburante, le emissioni, il rumore e le bioincrestazioni. Le ECA sono un'implementazione coerente delle ECA è fondamentale, e la Commissione europea continuerà a impegnarsi per sostenere i lavori a livello tecnico, politico e anche, e sottolineo veramente perché lo sto vivendo sulla mia pelle, nel senso che c'è veramente un grosso lavoro dietro le quinte da parte di noi funzionari della Commissione europea per avere i finanziamenti giusti, necessari, nel modo giusto e al momento giusto presenti. Con questo ho terminato e vi ringrazio per la prima presentazione. Ditemi voi se avete qualche piccola domanda oppure se preferite che continui con la seconda presentazione.
No, direi che magari è meglio continuare.
Va bene.
Grazie.
Allora, facciamo così, un istante solo. Dunque. Bene, state vedendo la mia seconda presentazione, giusto?
Giusto.
Sì, bene. Allora, di nuovo vi ringrazio per l'attenzione, vi ringrazio anche per il tempo che dedicate a queste due presentazioni. Questa seconda presentazione riguarda in particolare le politiche e i finanziamenti dell'UE per la decarbonizzazione marittima. Quindi la focalizzazione del tema è adesso più sulle emissioni dei gas serra. Dunque, questo fa parte... Dunque, questo fa parte di una serie di iniziative, quindi c'è come dire, una serie strutturata di iniziative che stanno portando il settore marittimo a una rapidissima evoluzione, soprattutto con grossi investimenti nel campo di tecnologie diverse per la propulsione e, cosa che riguarda questo convegno, per le emissioni zero quando le navi si trovano nei porti. I 4 strumenti legislativi fondamentali sono l'ETS, che è il sistema che accennavo prima di scambio delle emissioni, la FIR, che è un regolamento che stabilisce come le infrastrutture di trasporto devono offrire possibilità agli utenti, in questo caso stiamo parlando di cosa i porti devono fare per le navi che attraccano. La FuelEU Maritime, che si focalizza sulla riduzione delle emissioni di gas serra rispetto all'energia utilizzata dalle navi, nel senso che la nave può continuare ad utilizzare l'energia, però la stessa quantità di energia deve complessivamente emettere sempre meno gas serra. E poi la direttiva sulle energie rinnovabili, che impone degli obblighi agli Stati membri con dei target per via via ridurre le emissioni di gas serra e spostarsi verso fonti rinnovabili di energia in tutti i settori, inclusi quello marittimo. In particolare la RefuelEU di cui parlo ha degli obiettivi che vedete qua di riduzione entro il 2025, quindi per l'anno prossimo del 2%, del 2030 del 6% e dal 2035 comincia ad essere veramente pesante e importante il rate di riduzione fino ad arrivare nel 2050 all'80%. Questa è, di nuovo, ripeto, l'intensità di gas serra rispetto all'energia utilizzata a bordo. Significa che non è la quantità globale di gas serra emessa dal settore marittimo, ma è la quantità relativa all'energia utilizzata dal settore marittimo. E poi gli altri due punti qui sotto che sono di interesse per voi: c'è un obbligo di utilizzare l'alimentazione elettrica a terra, OPS, o la tecnologia a emissioni zero, e questo a partire dal 1 gennaio 2030, cioè in particolare per i porti dovranno, secondo anche quanto previsto dalla AFIR, è un'altra legislazione europea, offrire la possibilità di utilizzare delle colonnine elettriche, per cui le navi fondamentalmente devono spegnere il motore e utilizzare l'energia di cui hanno bisogno quando sono al porto, solamente l'energia elettrica, ma possono anche utilizzare in alternativa dei sistemi di generazione dell'energia interni alla nave, che però devono essere a emissioni zero. E per vostra curiosità è proprio oggi, in questi giorni, che sto scrivendo questo decreto, questo atto legislativo in cui stabilisco quali sono i criteri da rispettare quando le navi sono in porto, per dire che questi sistemi a emissioni zero sono effettivamente a emissioni zero. Il regolamento RefuelEU è abbastanza chiaro sulla cosa, dice sono proprio emissioni zero. Quindi diciamo che siamo in una fase in cui anche per voi nei porti c'è innanzitutto un grosso salto in termini innovativi, ma anche un effetto negli anni a venire direi fondamentale, perché stiamo parlando oramai di andare verso navi nei porti che non emetteranno più nulla. Il campo di applicazione di questo regolamento europeo, il FuelEU Maritime, è quello delle navi superiori a 5.000 GT, includendo tutti i movimenti che sono interni all'Unione Europea e 50% quelli che vanno o arrivano da fuori l'Unione Europea. Per gas serra si intende la CO2, il metano e il biossido di azoto. E questa legislazione, come vedete nell'immagine sotto, è una legislazione che si occupa di andare da well to wake, cioè significa dal momento in cui viene prodotto il carburante al momento in cui viene utilizzato alla scia della nave. Quindi è un approccio veramente integrale che non prevede quindi che ci siano strategie per cui sì, magari le emissioni sono spostate alla fonte o alla sorgente, cioè le emissioni globali devono essere ridotte. E questa slide chiarisce un po' quali sono le tendenze al momento delle diverse possibili tecnologie che sono utilizzate. Vedete che ad oggi siamo ancora al combustibile fossile, però c'è una grossa sforzo da parte del settore nella transizione verso l'utilizzo maggiore del biodiesel, il biometanolo, del biogas naturale, quindi biometano liquefatto, e dell'idrogeno. E in particolare osservate queste tre barre in basso, vedete che vanno dal nero al verde al blu. Cosa significa? Che quello che stiamo osservando, che sembra essere in atto nel settore navale, è che dal fossile stiamo passando a combustibili che sono comunque combustibili fossili di origine biologica, per poi arrivare in futuro a dei combustibili sintetici, cioè dei combustibili che saranno creati sinteticamente grazie all'energia elettrica, resteranno sempre combustibili operati se l'energia elettrica è verde, sarà complessivamente un sistema a emissioni zero, non prettamente elettrico, cioè i motori non saranno elettrici, però utilizzeranno dei combustibili prodotti grazie all'elettricità. La prima barra in alto all'elettricità dall'alimentazione elettrica da terra è anche una sfida. Mi pare di sapere che voi a Livorno avete già installato una cabina elettrica al porto per cominciare a fornire questo servizio alle navi. Nel 2030 vi entrerà l'obbligo per tutte le navi di dare questo servizio e di utilizzare questo servizio. Piccola nota, c'è anche la possibilità, quando le navi viaggiano, o comunque anche quando sono nel porto, di utilizzare delle fonti locali totalmente rinnovabili, come le cellule fotovoltaiche o le turbine eoliche. Quanto questo contribuiranno probabilmente tra lo 0, e il 5% delle necessità di tutta la nave, però comunque c'è questa trasformazione in atto ed è interessante. Sono quasi alla fine, dunque che cosa succede? Questo per mostrarvi che ci sono dei momenti in cui la Commissione europea, noi dovremo verificare come vanno le cose, quindi sulla base di come vanno le cose poi eventualmente riadatteremo questo regolamento, e in particolare osservando i Renewable Fuel of Non-Biological Origin, RFNBO, che sono al momento proposti, ce ne sono pochi, e che potrebbero essere veramente una soluzione nel transitorio verso eventualmente nel lungo termine i fuel elettrici, come avevo accennato. Un'altra piccola slide per coloro che fossero nuovi al sistema della generazione dei combustibili, per spiegarvi che il regolamento prevede diverse strade dalla produzione, quindi dalla materia prima, diciamo così, alla produzione fino alla trasformazione nell'elemento finale che poi viene utilizzato all'interno della nave. E tutti questi diversi percorsi hanno dei loro vantaggi e degli svantaggi che vengono considerati in dei fattori che il regolamento prevede, per cui complessivamente le emissioni di gas serra devono tenere in considerazione l'intero percorso. Vi faccio vedere anche questa. Questa è una piccola slide per ricordare che il sostegno dell'UE alla decarbonizzazione va ben al di là di scrivere semplicemente dei regolamenti, ma c'è il Fondo per l'innovazione dell'Unione Europea, ci sono in particolare 20 milioni di quote dell'UE da destinare al settore marittimo entro il 2030, c'è il programma della ricerca Horizon Europe, ci sono i ricavi del sistema ETS e le sanzioni previste dalla FuelEU Maritime, che devono essere reinvestite nel settore marittimo per agevolare questa trasformazione. Poi abbiamo anche stimolato l'alleanza per i combustibili rinnovabili a basse emissioni di carbonio, che è un'alleanza in cui ci sono numerosissimi attori del settore produzione e distribuzione dei combustibili, e con la quale stiamo lavorando per cercare di capire quali sono i problemi e come si può andare avanti. E in particolare, con questo concludendo, voglio osservare che una delle azioni che sto portando avanti al momento è quella di cercare di capire perché ancora la produzione e la distribuzione di questi combustibili innovativi per il settore marittimo non ha un forte sviluppo, nonostante ci sia queste legislazioni europee che chiaramente hanno degli obiettivi molto forti per i prossimi anni, e quindi si suppone che ci deve essere un mercato che si sta sviluppando. E in questo ambito avremo nei prossimi mesi dei diversi dialoghi con gli Stati membri e con i grossi produttori di combustibili, dei diversi tipi di combustibili, per cercare di potenziare e di arrivare a un settore marittimo che ha a disposizione i combustibili come necessario e nel momento in cui ne necessitano. E con questo vi ringrazio e sono a vostra disposizione se avete particolari domande che volete fare adesso. Grazie.
Abbiamo un gruppo di rappresentanti di associazioni europee, che sono le associazioni europee che aiutano questo lavoro e che sostengono questo lavoro da tanti anni e grazie al quale noi siamo qui e che ringraziamo. Abbiamo Sönke Diesener di NABU, Kare Press Christensen di Green Global Future, abbiamo Lyudmila Osipova di ICCT e Basil che è un ricercatore in Grecia. Il primo interventore è Sönke. You go ahead.
Thank you, Anna. Thanks for the introduction, and thanks to Livorno to having us here today. In the name of NABU, a German NGO, thanks also to Anna for organizing the conference and for all the speakers being here with us today to discuss these quite interesting and important topics, and as we've heard today from Rampec, already evolving topic on the Mediterranean nitrogen emission control area. We have seen a lot of different topics that ships doing kind of harm to environment, to health, and to the climate. I will try to focus a lot on this work stream towards a nitrogen emission control area because our NGO network was kind of behind of pushing for the emission control area for sulfur. And of course, we were a little bit disappointed to not have it already for nitrogen, so it's the next step, and we are glad to hear that this is already moving. So let's make it short. First thing, why we are here today, I think just seeing this big bar of fuel consumed in the Mediterranean compared to other European waters makes it striking why we have to act in the Mediterranean, why this sea is so important. It's not only home to nearly 300 million people that suffer from air pollution, but it's also home to a lot of biodiversity, pristine creatures to preserve. I'm very happy that this has been said before, so I don't have to do a deep dive here, even though my organization is from a background, more from a biodiversity conservation background. But I will not go into detail here, but if we talk about NOx and about the regulation, how to regulate this, we talk about MAPOL Annex 6, and we don't have to read down the legislation here, but what it means at the end is what you see here on the left down graph is getting down the emission of NO2 and other NOx from exhaust of ships by means of, mostly it's catalytic systems to reduce this. There are also some other technical options, other alternative fuels with less, but this is the background how it works. And what we need is an assessment study, as we have heard today, and then all the littoral countries around this water body have to agree on it and then go to the IMO, the International Maritime Organization, and apply for it. So from a technical perspective and also from a political perspective, it's easy to oversee process. But of course, there are a lot of details where maybe some devil's inside. Then, of course, also, I mean, most of you in the room are very well aware of these issues, but especially the loads of NOx in port cities around the Mediterranean are quite high, some exceeding the European Air Quality Directive thresholds, and they will be higher quite soon, hopefully. And the WHO guidelines are breached more or less everywhere around the Med, not only in cities, even on the countryside. So it's time to act. Then I will skip that one. It's just displaying that the shipping routes are causing a lot of effects, and that the Zika here in the north has already a quite significant impact that you can see on the map. But this will be true here already from May next year. So this is in the very near future, and then the NECA will come next. How to declare this and how it works, I've already displayed this on the first slide that I've shown, but it's just for you as a little bit of an outline how the structure could be, and also maybe for some of you in the room, if you want to be involved in the process of making it, or if you want to write a protest note to the local politicians you work with, or however what your kind of influence is, or you're working for a scientific institution that could feed into such a process. So this is what you need from a technical perspective if you want to apply for such a regulation. I mean, there are many other things to solve, but I will leave this to the next speakers, concentrating on that particular regulation, and then bringing a little bit of the evidence. It's very great to hear that RAMPAC is already commissioned a study to look into the evidence again, and also to look into the socioeconomic impacts and the health impacts and whatever we have. But it's good to know that that has been done already to some extent. There were very big studies in 2017, 2019. Maybe they're a little bit outdated, but they are clear that we have to act, and they were already clear that they are quite cost-effective measures. So yeah, it's just some numbers, and I kind of made a red circle around the value of NO2 reduction. Only on that one health impact is already quite big. So, but I think that Anna will share the presentations later online for those who want them, so you don't have to read down all the lines. It's just giving some idea what it brings, and then making this a little bit more visual. It's from this INERI study that France commissioned in 2019. You see all the hotspots for NOx. You see the cities. You see northern Italy. Everybody in Europe knows that there's a problem also on land that may be solved by others, and it will be solved by others. But we are looking on the sea, and you see that the routes of shipping, but also the ports, are big sources of NOx. And then after the regulation will come into place, and then also the fleet has renewed, because it's also only a price for new ships, then the Mediterranean will look like this. And I circled some of the cities, because it's clear that you see that on the shipping lines there's a big effect, but there's also quite big effect in ports that is not that easy to see. But if you look at Istanbul or at North Italian ports, where we are today, or at a region around Marseille, then you see that there's also a big gain for ports and coastal communities. And then this is maybe the most convincing one. It's about the cost effectiveness and what we save if we invest a little bit more in fuel and exhaust after treatment technology or alternative fuels. And what I think is also quite important if we talk about these costs is that this is a measure that is always a level playing field for all ships. So it doesn't imply any imbalances, at least inside the region where it's applied. So it's a little bit of money that have to be invested for cleaner fuels or for alternative fuels or for exhaust after treatment, but this is covered by all on the same level, and of course can be given then to the customers or whoever. And as shipping costs are extremely low when it comes to the single parcel, single container, whatever is transported, the end consumer will not feel this price. It's very marginal. But of course, shipping companies have to equip their ships with the right technology, so there is some costs that have to be covered, and of course, this is something that have to be dealt out on the political level or elsewhere. Almost last slide already is on the NECA effects on city-level NO2 concentrations. I think, unfortunately, this is a little bit different in scale, so you cannot compare it too easily. But I'm seeing that in Geneva, there's a decrease of 20 microgram of NOx per cubic meter of air. This is very, very huge gain. So you see also some other cities. So immediately, if this would take effect immediately, it doesn't, unfortunately, Genoa would have no problem with breaching the European directives or air quality directives thresholds for nitrogen oxide. And it's doing it right now. I mean, there have been infringement procedures because of a lot of Italian cities, German cities also, because of other issues, so all over Europe. And in these port cities, or in most of them, if shipping wouldn't be regulated that bad, let's say, or that low compared to road transport, the problem would be solved already. So it's good to see that there's a quite good effect. And then just because it's a little bit little to see, there's a red bar and a blue bar. The red bar is assuming that 50% of ships are compliant with Tier 3, so have the equipment on board or alternative fuels to reduce their NOx emissions by 75%, and then the blue bar thinks that 100% of ships apply to these regulation or are in the right manner equipped. At the moment, the regulation is only for new ships, but hopefully there will be a little bit. We hope and we work for it, and maybe there's someone who can help us or reach out again. We will also try to push for that there is an improvement of that regulation that can make this a little faster, especially also because, I mean, what the European Commission displayed before, there's a lot of things going on also on regulation towards climate protection on shipping, and there are some good synergies between a lot of these regulations. So I'm a little bit optimistic that this is a little faster than in 2015, to be honest. And I very much hope so. So I'm already at the conclusion. I think it's evident that it's a cost-effective measure, that we have to take it, and that we have to roll out that regulation. And but I also want to have a little look on the challenges, of course, that we have. We need new studies. So the first point that I wrote down for challenge last week seems to be already solved, or whatever the outcome of the study will be that RAMPAC has commissioned. So, but my knowledge 1 week ago was that those studies that I used to show the evidence is a little bit outdated already. So there is some new things going on climate regulation and others that have to be taken into account if you are making a new study. And then, of course, it's also the geopolitical situation in the Eastern Mediterranean. I mean, as I told you on the first slide, every country that is bordering this water body have to agree on a way forward. And we know that there's a tragedy going on in the Eastern Med, so it's challenging to have a common decision among all Mediterranean countries at the moment. But yeah, let's hope for both, that we solve our problem, but also that the tragedy in the Eastern Med will end. Yeah, the sooner the better. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
So thank you very much for allowing me to speak at this event, and I'll introduce by saying I'm very impressed about the translators and the way they could translate so fast in the morning with the first speakers. Being able to talk together and understand each other is of course the way forward. I'm here as a part of a large EU project called Life for MECA. The coordinator of that project is the Port Authority of Livorno. They have already 4 years ago decided that they want to contribute actively to solve this challenge on pollution from shipping, not only in Livorno, but in all the Mediterranean Sea. And they have done that by engaging actively in EU projects involving as many states as possible to work on this challenge. And we are very happy about that. We are from Danish side a part of that project in Green Global Future. We're happy to be so. Very shortly, the project is about having a successful implementation of the decided sulfur emission control area. One thing is to decide it, another thing is to implement it, of course. And the implementation is what creates the clean air. So that is extremely important. Then we want to designate a successful NOx emission control area to get rid of the NOx pollution as well, which is a huge challenge. Sönke just said reductions up to 20 micrograms per cubic meter of air in Genova, and we need each 10 microgram per cubic meter reduction reduces the number of cardiovascular diseases by 6%. So 20% reduction is a lot. And then, of course, we are working not only in the Mediterranean, but in the Atlantic as well, to create a huge Atlantic emission control area. What we can offer is here, I'll not use time on that, but let us know if we can help in any way. This is what we want to avoid: the black smoke, the soot particles. This is the pollution that is most toxic for our health. And this pollution does not stay in the port. It travels over long distances. And here you can see that during the evenings and quiet nights, it's spread all over many Mediterranean cities. This is the case. This can be solved, and we can still have the same ships. But they need to use cleaner fuels, they need to be connected to shore power, they need to have catalytic converters. We can clean up shipping and still have the same number of ships. And that is what all our work is about. Not against shipping, but to cleaner shipping. If we look upon the health effects, we have official numbers for Italy. We know that air pollution causes cardiovascular diseases, cancer, and serious airway diseases that are the main cause of mortality and morbidity in the population. And if we look upon the official numbers, then according to the European Environmental Agency, we have about 65,000 people dying due to air pollution every year in Italy. And that is a little more than 10% of all deaths in Italy. So where we have 100 people dying in Italy, almost 10 of these people die due to air pollution. So this is not some negligible cause of death. This is a serious threat to human health. We can compare it to COVID, and we can say in the 4 years, well, then actually air pollution caused more premature death than COVID. But we have no vaccine against air pollution. We need to reduce it. And shipping is, of course, only a part of this. There are many other sources like road traffic, residential burning in some parts of the Mediterranean as well, but shipping is a significant part of it. The good thing is it's very cost efficient to do something about shipping because very little has been done. Here we can see shipping, and if we look upon the global limit, that is the limit in the Mediterranean Sea, ship fuels can contain 5,000 ppm sulfur. Road diesel here on the streets in Livorno contains 10. That's 500 times less. And no ships have catalytic converters or particulate filters. But since 2014, this has been standard equipment in all trucks in the European Union. So there's a huge gain by updating shipping to the modern world and reducing pollution. And that's what we do with the SEGA coming into force next year in May. It reduces the sulfur pollution by 80%. This is just to show that if we take a new truck with a filter, we have very clean air in the exhaust. Even we are hundreds of meters from a cruise ship, we have very different levels. And according to the World Health Organization, 20,000 ultrafine particles is a high level that should be avoided. I'm not going to the details on the health issues now, there's not time, but there's a link here to a small movie from the World Health Organization that is definitely worth looking into. And the slides will be distributed after the conference. The good news, we need to remember them. We have clean air in the Mediterranean, at least when we don't have a ship in the port. This is from Piraeus. This is what happens when we have a ferry in the port. You can recognize the green building in the background. And this is not unique for Piraeus. This is the case everywhere. And this is what we want to avoid, and this is what we are working to avoid, not by getting rid of shipping, but by getting cleaner shipping. Shipping is integrated in many Mediterranean port cities. Maybe you don't see shipping here. Some of you see it, but there are actually many ships here. Now I take the picture from another angle. Here the ships are quite visible. We don't talk about small boats here. Try to look at the size of the ships and compare it to the buildings. We're talking huge floating hotels. If you go to the Straits of Piraeus, for example, here at the end of each street we have a small play in Denmark, saying with children, who lives at the end of the street? When you go around in Piraeus, it seems that a chimney is living at the end of the street. You see from the ships here. And these are the same height as the buildings. So of course the pollution, when it's the same height as the chimney, goes into the buildings where we measure very high levels, much higher than the National Air Quality Monitoring Station. And again, 20,000 is a high level. Not all these people have air conditioning, so they open doors and windows to get clean air. But then when you have a ship chimney outside, you get the polluted air indoor. And of course, we need to avoid this. Here from Genova, taken when we have a cruise ship during the daytime, and then same evening when the cruise ship have left, taking the same place, we see clear difference. We have a picture here from Livorno, one side of the ship, upwind, we have the clean air from the sea, and of course, downwind, we have the pollution. We all know this. This is no magic. This is well known. We see the same in Piombino. Sorry for the bad pronunciation for those of you that are Italian. We see it here in Civitavecchia when we have no wind, and when we have wind from the ferries, you can recognize the sinks that are the same spot. And the measurements from Civitavecchia shows much higher levels than what is a high level, and even the background level from traffic in Roma. And the pollution, definitely you can see the cruise ship in the background definitely goes. When you have wind from the sea, it's no magic. Of course, the air pollution is reported to the city. That is it. And we see that Civitavecchia, Genova, Livorno, Piombino, we have actually, when we have wind from the sea, we have higher levels than the high levels. So let's not discuss if there is high pollution, because there is. We all know that. Let's talk how can we solve it, because that is the future. That is what we all want. We want the shipping, we want our laptops, telephones, all other benefits of shipping. But we don't want the pollution. The good news is it can be avoided by technological solutions. Of course, shore power is a no-brainer, but it is expensive, and it requires a collaboration between the port and municipality and electricity company. And then we need, of course, particulate filters, has a huge potential, and we need emission control areas. These are the way forward. We're working close with that. And as mentioned, Livorno Port Authority is the coordinator of this project and trying to work with this all over the Mediterranean, not only on the European side, but organizing conferences in North African countries to help there as well. And this collaboration during the last 3 to 4 years has really moved something. I'll be very brief and just say that in Northern Europe, I come from Denmark. I don't consider myself as very Danish anymore because I mainly work abroad. But Denmark is the small spot here in the red circle. We have very intense ship activities as well. We are the binding part between the North Sea and the Baltic Sea. You can see here a snapshot of shipping. If we look upon the sulfur emissions before we had the sulfur emission control area, it looked like this. You could see the shipping routes, no surprise. But what we saw when we had the sulfur emission control area was a reduction of more than 50%, even on land, in the middle of land and large cities, more than 50% decrease. We saw as well here, our SECA came into force in 2015. This is measurements from our German island, Neuwerk. And again, I apologize for Germans for not having the perfect pronunciation. But we see before we have the high levels from shipping, after low levels. Same shipping, same benefits, but without the same pollution. So the experiences from us in Northern Europe, where we have both the sulfur emission control area and the NOx emission control area, there's plenty of distillate fuel available. We saw high reductions of air pollution. We had significant economical and health benefits. We have no enforcement challenges. Ships are fulfilling. We have one problem at the moment, that is Russian ships, but that is for the moment, and hopefully this conflict will soon be over. We have no cargo transport from ships to road. That was what everybody feared. That has not happened. Shipping traffic increased much faster than road transport even after we had the emission control area. We saw no price increases for consumers. There was calculated a theoretical price increase of 0.003%. And we have inflation now, as you know, of 2 to 3% every year. So this is not anything we can feel. There were no notable extra costs for ship operators or the authorities. So this was really a success story. And now we hope to do the same in the Mediterranean, the Atlantic, and other seas. Thank you.
Thank you for your presence and the invitation of being here. My presentation will be a bit different from the other ones in terms of how we are trying to sensitize people and produce data that the government and the authorities are not doing. We don't have the fortune of your countries who are very organized in this field, believing that, of course, data helps decision-making. In our country, I think the policy is no data, we can do what we want. So in this respect, we have sort of organized a way of measuring some pollutants that we were fortunate enough to be able to do a year ago, cooperating with NABU and CARE through that project of measuring nitrogen oxides in Piraeus. So I'll focus on that more. And of course, you see there that we are talking also of the university as in cooperation with a civic society called Piraeus Observatory. Okay, so a lot of sort of health effects, if you want, have been talked about. I just wanted to show you Piraeus, where it compares to other ports from official results. So there's Piraeus number 6 in terms of the most pollutant ports. So we're talking of a very polluted area. They're third, in fact, from pollution, atmospheric pollution from berthed ships and so on, okay? And you can see probably others. Genova is a bit less. I was talking to Enzo here, and he said that they have sort of 15 measuring stations, and you'll see how many Piraeus has in a moment. Anyhow, so, and the health impacts, again, a lot of people talked about. I won't go through it. It's not only the deaths that we talk about, but also this morbidity that is a very interesting new development. And again, in Greece, if you can, Greece is third for morbidity of diabetes mellitus from nitrogen oxides. Okay, so nitrogen dioxide. So this is a serious effect for Greece, apart from all the other ones you have already mentioned. So there should be, I suppose, there should be some, how can I say, mobilization of government authorities to look at this problem, because for years we knew about it. And these are the results I talked to you about. This all started really, we're looking into the port because of this new expansion. You can see the new expansion for the cruise ship. And this is what has become a very big issue in Piraeus, in terms of what the economic benefits would be and what the environmental benefits or impacts will be for the city. So anyhow, that's how it all started, bringing about all these important issues to a head in order to discuss with the authorities. As I say, the whole situation is that nothing is talked about, no data are collected, or very few, I'll show you in a bit, and that the sort of interests of other organizations or other entities, if you want, seem to override the interests of the people living there, the citizens and so on. And in fact, what I'll be telling you about now is that we've also sort of introduced this new idea of citizen science. So we are involving young people into this kind of activity, because we really believe all these statistical data don't seem to affect people. They say, since I am okay and I haven't died, probably the data it is for other people. Okay, so this is a very important project of what we're doing at the moment. We'll talk about later. So this is how it all started with, as I say, the cooperation of NABU and CARE and so on. So this is the area of the Greater Athens, Attica area. Just the details here are not very important, but I want this area of about 600,000 people, this big area around about 6,000 people, has only one measuring station, which is specific for traffic. In fact, it's called a background station. Okay, that's the only one exists, although according to the European directive, it should have at least 2 or 3. And the important thing is not only a city, it's the port, it's the industrial area around the port. Greece doesn't have much industry. Most of it is around the port, in fact. Okay, so, and this is the station, very quickly. This is the station. I'm sure Kare remembers it well, because we sat with Kare and discussed where the sampling points would be to have a good, so we thought, we put one next to the station because we can have a good comparison with the national station. So it's full of graffiti, as you can see there, but it's working at least. And the other station, which is not on the national grid, which is the port operates it, is on the other side. Oh, sorry, it moves. On the other side of the port, but of course not integrated in the national grid. No reports, no data are published. You have to ask for them, and you have to go through a couple of organizations and 6 months waiting in order to get some of this data. Anyhow, so this is the other station. Those are the only 2, but in fact, on the national grid, on the reporting data to the European Union, only the first one exists. Okay, so, and the problem has been known for a long time here, from 2010, from a NABU study. Axel is here, he remembers it very well, I suppose. Not so much for nitrogen, but also for black carbon and so on. This was already the bells were ringing that there is a situation in Piraeus that has to be looked into. Of course, Until now, nothing has happened. And of course, all the meteorological data show us that most of the time, most of the year, this pollution is blown into the city from the sea. The sea breeze usually is the most sort of persistent kind of wind that so you see in different conditions the pollution coming from the port is actually transferred into this area where nobody measures anything. Okay, so we started by looking at the data provided by the second station, the one that the port is operating. I think in a good way, but I'm not so sure either. Anyhow, and already even from back in 2005, already the data were provided that the levels of nitrogen dioxide were higher than the 40 micrograms per cubic meter limit of the European directive. Okay, and Kari was very right to remind us that the limit will be 20 soon, and already the World Health Organization is at 10. So how on earth this city with this kind of activity will be able to conform to the... So you see, with red, all the years, even 2015 and so on, the yearly average is higher than 40 micrograms per cubic meter. So this is the conclusion from what I said, is that we knew all this time that the levels were higher. Nobody did anything about it. Nobody even analyzed the fact with which wind may be, with what activities may be, and so on. So, and this is very important. You see, what is to blame? What is to blame? Is it shipping? Is it traffic? Is it heating? Also, all these activities are happening in this city. Is it industry? And you have to know that, okay, when it's north wind, it is the ships. If it's east, it's something else. But you need to know this in order to manage the situation. As Kara said, we don't want to close down the port, of course. So this is what has been happening over the years. And last year, you had this fantastic data with all the cities in the Mediterranean according to nitrogen dioxide, and of course Piraeus was the highest. So we expected an award from NABU, but we didn't get anything. I mean, yeah? Next time. And there you can see the average of all the sampling stations. Okay, again, here's the average. So I'm trying to say that for all these years, we knew the problem, and nobody did anything about it. I think I have it further down, but I want to say that, of course, the European Union collects data from the national one station. Okay. Since 2015 or so, they've been contacting Greece saying, look, you have a problem, you must do something about it, you're over the limit and so on. And only after 2022, actually Greece was condemned by the European Court for these concentrations, not for the concentrations as such, but because she was not doing anything to analyze and reduce it. It's very interesting. The condemnation is not that you exceed, that you're not doing anything over so many years. Anyway, so we decided to, with the help of Nabu and Kare, we sort of continued after the August 23, I think, results, to monitor with the very basic tubes that you were so kind to provide at the time, at the beginning, okay? And these are the results we hopefully, in about 2 or 3 months, we will have a full year. Because what we're doing, which is not scientifically correct, is saying that we are, in August it was 60 micrograms, which is over the 40 micrograms limit. But in fact, the 40 micrograms is an annual average. Okay, so we want an annual average. And at the time, all this time, we've been monitoring these different stations. There are different positions. Okay, anyhow. And the point is, just to have a look here, it goes up and down a bit, of course, and so on. August is the last one we've had. September, October are in the process. Everything is over the 40 microgram limit, definitely over the 10 of the World Health Organization, and 20, as you said before. So this is continuing, and nothing has been done, and this is the condemnation and so on. Okay, so this is the condemnation results and so on. So we sort of continued this process with the help of citizens in order to collect this data that nobody else does. Okay, somebody told us, what are you doing? The European Union Court condemned you for this. Why are you trying to prove that you are over the limit? We are trying to prove that we're over the limit for Piraeus as such, okay? So because this is a big, wider area that this one station is measuring. So we are proving that hopefully in 2 weeks, or in 2 months, we will have an annual sort of monitoring program, that this is happening in Piraeus, and it's very dangerous according to all the what has been said before. Okay, why is there only one measuring station? We've been asking this question and nobody seems to be able to answer us. Enzo told me Genoa has 15 or so. Yeah? Valencia, we went to a conference some time ago, 16. And therefore, just one more thing. What we've invested in some tubes measuring benzene, toluene, these organic substances in an area around Piraeus. And what we really want to do, because we know that ultraviolet, and Piraeus has a lot of sun, as you all know, and these oxides of nitrogen react between themselves and produce ozone, and ozone levels are high as well, and it's a very dangerous thing. We have this new project going. We've acquired some instruments that will measure BTX, with organic things, as well as monitoring stations, and hopefully we will imply the whole sort of citizen movement in order to be able to also look at this part as well. Thank you for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vasily. So, Axel, you wanted to ask something? There was a question, maybe? Because it's a bit late.
Only one. Okay. Even the station is measuring high numbers. This station is not legal because it doesn't fulfill the requirement of the European directive. Yeah. So this station measure, like here in Livorno, too low numbers. These are not in line with the decision of the European Court because the rule in Brussels, what is the requirement of the establishment of a station? And this station in Piraeus and also here are not in line with these legal requirements.
According to your suggestion, I think we talked about it then, I actually wrote to the European Union about this problem. One station, not measuring because it's inside buildings, in a park, in an area where it's not communicating well with the surrounding atmosphere. All these, I think you suggested, and I wrote all these things down, and I said, how do you allow Greece for for 600,000 people with all these activities to have one station which was not very good. In fact, I made a case because now a big tower, a big, I don't know, 35 stories high is built. And I said, this will change the sort of vertexing of the, and you know what, in the European Commission, Regio, I think it was, I never understand how the European Union works anyhow, says that we can't do anything because Greece has put this station in the Attica area, and therefore it's a Greek.
Ok. Allora adesso Lyudmila Osipova è dell'ICCT e ci parlerà di un problema gravissimo e sempre crescente che è come ridurre lo zolfo dal carburante delle navi.
Thank you, Anna. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Lyudmila, and I'm going to talk today a little bit kind of switch of the subject and talking about different compliance methods that can be used to reduce sulfur emissions from shipping. And specifically today I'm going to talk about scrubbers, which is a known technology for reducing sulfur emissions that considered to be equally good performing when compared to desulfurized fuels like distillate fuels or ultra-low sulfur fuel oil. This is just a quick introduction about the organization I'm representing. We're a non-profit independent organization working since 2005, and the maritime program works a lot with the policymakers, with decision makers, and since 2019 we are looking closely and following up on development of the regulations of scrubbers. So basically, just to give a quick introduction of the current situations, here you can see the progressing of scrubbers installations since 2015. And as you can see, there is a huge spike in here that was caused by the sulfur cap introduction in 2020. So between 2018 and 2020, you see there's a fourfold increase in installation. And right now, the installations of scrubbers are kind of reached the plateau, but still it's growing. And today, I want to sort of talk a little bit about the legality of this compliance method and just maybe debunk some myths about it. Many people think that scrubbers are directly allowed by the MARPOL Annex 6 Regulation 4.4 to be used instead of the distillate fuels. But actually, in fact, what the MARPOL says is that the scrubbers are considered to be sort of an equivalent technology that shouldn't damage the environment, shouldn't damage human health, or some other marine environment, shouldn't cause any marine environment damage. And we at the ICCT look closer at these 3 points of this requirement and to see if actually scrubbers can be considered an equivalent technology. Does it damage the environment or human health? And I want to just go one by one to using an example of the study that we conducted for the emission control area is a newly proposed Atlantic emission control area. You see here this area is planning basically to join Mediterranean emission control area with the Arctic, so all the way up. This is currently under development, this one. And we did a study by looking at the different compliance technology. So what kind of emissions reduction can we expect if distillate fuel going to be used or scrubbers can be used? And what we find out that actually as much as scrubbers perform good, like as good as distillate in removing sulfur emissions, they are not equally good in removing particulate matters and black carbon. So as you can see here, the distillates actually, the scrubbers actually produce 17% more particulate matter and 32% more black carbon emissions when compared to the distillates. And of course, it leads to some health impact, different health impact results. So if you look at the health impact, we actually find out that establishing emission control area in the Atlantic in the North Atlantic, if this emission control area will be compliant using distillates versus scrubbers. And we calculated that if scrubbers are used, there's going to be 300 more premature deaths in between 2030 and 2050. So basically, scrubbers also cannot be seen as equivalent in human health benefits when compared to distillates. And finally, this is the most common problem that is discussed publicly about scrubbers. Are they actually damage or do not damage the marine environment? And in the last 5 years, there were plenty of peer-reviewed scientific publications. Here I just selected the latest one. It was published by the Swedish scientist in Nature Sustainability. It's a very respectful journal, and it's based on the big, many years study conducted by the, actually sponsored by the European Union and conducted by the scientists on looking at the marine environment effect from the scrubbers. And what they found out is actually very concerning. They tested the discharged water from scrubbers in the Baltic Sea, in the North Sea, and Mediterranean seas, and they found a very high level of ecotoxical impact on a variety of organisms at different trophic levels. And the results shows basically that if you dilute 1 milliliter of the scrubber wash water with 1,000 liters of seawater, you will still see the ecotoxicological effect on the organisms. And on top of it, they find out that pollution caused by scrubbers can lead to the socio-economical costs exceeding 680 million euro. So this is just for your information, this is the map that we made a few years ago on scrubber discharge distribution around the globe. This is, in 2023, we estimated that global discharge will be just a little bit over 10 gigaton of wash water per year around the world. And this is happening everywhere, like in marine protected areas, it's happening in ports, because it's basically not forbidden to use it. And this actually led us to the next interesting conversation publicly. Is it even allowed by the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea? And according to this convention, actually, it's forbidden to transform the one type of pollution into another. And scrubbers do exactly that. They take the air pollution and transfer it into the water pollution. And UNCLOS actually has very high status compared to many other conventions. It's the highest status. And it has 168 member states. And these member states that are part of it will have to, according to the convention, take individual responsibilities for this type of actions. That means that actually they're mandated to establishing some kind of control over this pollution. And this is something that is discussed, but not really any actions are made around it. So what can be done? It's often being told that that's only the IMO, International Maritime Organization, that can create some kind of bans or regulations that are gonna affect the scrubber usage. But in fact, it's actually not true. We did a study in last year by assessing how many countries, ports, and authorities already banned usage of scrubbers. And we found that the sort of restrictions and bans already exist in 45 countries and 80 bans, and it's only in 2023. Actually, since then, there were a few more countries joining it. And most of these restrictions and regulations are port level. So actually, port can unilaterally take actions in deciding if they are allowing or not allowing to use scrubbers. And these are just a few examples how it's been done around the world. For example, this can be done through the publication of circulars on compliance of MARPOL, just to have like a note that scrubbers are not accepted. And that have been done in Suez Canal, in Saudi Arabia, in Pakistan, and many other countries. Then there is also another way of doing it. That's what recently Vancouver Fraser Port Authority in Canada did. they amended the port information guide and applied these regulations to all scrubber discharges. And then finally, there is also sometimes some cases of using existing national laws, like in Germany, for example, and they basically look at the water regulations and when you consider that scrubber wash water is actually a pollution, a water pollution, that can be regulated under the existing laws. So these are basically all what I wanted to talk about today. And just to conclude, as I presented in the beginning, the MARPOL Annex 6 required to be considered as equivalent technology for scrubbers. Actually, scrubbers do not comply with all the requirements that are listed in MARPOL Annex 6, but still somehow accepted under MARPOL. Then also the discharge of scrubber wastewater probably violates the UNCLOS requirement and should be also unilaterally regulated and addressed by the member states of the UNCLOS. And finally, as I showed, there are regulations existing already at the different levels, at port levels, and some countries actually ban scrubbers in the territorial seas as well. And this can be done and actually should be done according to the laws and according to just to protecting the marine environment that we are all basically depend on. That's all from my side. And if you have any questions, please reach me out. I'm around here all day. Thank you for your question. So most of what studies and regulations, they are mostly about open loop scrubbers. But as you can see on this plot, actually the 81% of all installations are open loop scrubbers. There's 17% of hybrid, but most of them work in the open loop mode. So basically it makes 99% of all scrubbers being open loop scrubbers, and then just 1% are closed loop scrubbers. But even closed loop scrubbers are not emission free. They produce a small amount of discharge, but this small amount is highly concentrated. And there was a study in Germany showing that actually the toxic effect of this type of concentrated discharge from the closed loop scrubbers even worse than from the open loop scrubbers. So scrubbers is not a clean technology in general. It's not emission free.
Thank you, Ludmila, very much for your brilliant presentation as usual. Kåre?
Just to say that in Denmark from next summer, we have banned all discharge of scrubber water from open loop and hybrid loop out to a 12 nautical mile sea limit. Sweden will do the same. 3 years later, all discharge from closed loop scrubbers will be banned as well. So there will be no more scrubbers used in these seas.
Thank you, Kåre. Actually, in effetti penso che questo nostro incontro possa servire anche per l'autorità, per il porto di Livorno, per fissarsi degli obiettivi a breve termine di misure che possono essere adottate come pilota italiano e come buone pratiche che arrivano dal nostro continente, e speriamo che possa essere questo un buono stimolo.